Hey, I'm Brian Kohn of Kohn Knives, and I have some really sad news. This video is going to be the very last video I ever make in this shop. Let's get into it. Wait, don't unsubscribe. I'm not done making YouTube videos. This is just my final YouTube video in this shop. I'll be moving up and out of this shop and into a big garage in the backyard of the new house we just purchased. So this is, of course, this shop is one of the biggest things that has ever happened in my knife making career, because before this shop, I was just making knives on a back porch. For the longtime viewers out there, if you remember my very first video, it was me just moving into this space, and it was a brand new chapter in my knife making career. Now, moving on to the next space, it is going to be like opening up a whole new chapter, a new, better, brighter chapter. And not only am I going to be moving into that, but you guys as the viewers will be moving there with me. Before we get into that new space, let's do one final shop tour of this place. And let's start just by measuring it out so you can see how much space I've been working in. So I pulled out my measuring tape and measuring the long ways. If you check out all the way over there, I've got the measuring tape all out there. It comes out to 16 feet, almost exactly. I think there's maybe an inch a little bit short of 16 feet, but we've got 16 feet that way. Let's see what it is this way. And we've got roughly, holy cow, this is larger than I thought. Shoot, we got 10 feet going this way. But if we're talking about workable space, we're more talking about like, 6.5 feet from the end of this wall, or the end of this shelf right here, to that wall over here, and then a couple feet of storage over that way. First and foremost, any knife maker is going to spend 90% of their time at the belt grinder. When I first moved in here, this belt grinder was a huge addition to my shop. Since I've moved in, I have upgraded the motor to a 220 motor with a VFD so I can move the belt speed up and down. And the other big thing that I get questions on, if you are a subscriber, you've watched my videos and you've seen me use the misting system on this belt grinder. And a lot of people have the complaint of the misting system that when you're using that water, it actually sprays water everywhere. Well, here's something I have done. First of all, I've hung my swarf bucket by 2 nails, which just go on right there so that the handle just sits on there. And then I've taken a piece of scrap right here and I just cut it down to shape, and it fits perfectly between those two so that when a belt goes around there and there's water flinging, it'll hit this little piece of wood, which will then dribble it back down into the swarf bucket. First of all, you lose a lot less water that way. And second of all, you don't have that spray going everywhere. So that definitely helps. And I've had a lot of questions about it. I just wanted to show that off. The next thing, you're working on your belt grinder. Well, what are you gonna need to do? You're gonna need to change over your belts. So this is where I have all of my belts set up. 36 grit over here, the higher grit's going that way. And I guess one of the things that I've seen a lot of knife makers do is they make the mistake of just hanging their belts straight on nails. The problem with hanging your belts on the nails is that as that sits, the weight of the belts will actually start to make that tiny radius a bump in your belts, which sucks. So what I did is I took a little bit of 3-inch PVC, just kind of roughly cut them to shape so that now I have a much wider radius and I don't get that ugly bump on the belt, which, it's a small thing, but it's kind of one of those things that you need to do. Also over here, I have my, my metal storage. This is all the material I'm making knives out of. Just general storage. So I've got a couple of my my power tools over here, angle grinder, drills, hand drills, a couple of the old motors down here that I ran on the belt grinder before, but no longer use. You know, it's just general storage over here. I just want to show that off. Here's one of the things that I don't normally show off on this channel. This is where, you know, this is where I have all of my material for handle material. There's a lot of miscellaneous up here. This is where I keep all my G10s. As you can see, I have the better part of the rainbow when it comes to G10 materials. And that's just because I love putting liners in my handle material. Great place to store it. This is just an old cabinet, and there's a lot of stuff that's here. A lot of material that I've bought and also material that I've been lucky enough to be given. I'm very excited to use all of that for sure. You know, just other miscellaneous stuff. I mean, some sandpaper, some, you know, if I cut myself, I've got some, you know, gauze to stop the bleeding, all that fun stuff. Anywhere down through here, it doesn't really matter all that much. Paper for cutting, that's pretty much all that stuff. Sketching ideas. Then down here, probably the dumbest place I could put these things, that's where I keep my map gas torches. If those ever leaked and there's somehow it ignited, this whole thing would go up in flames. And you know, maybe that's not the best place to put it. Maybe when I move over to the new shop, I can have a better spot to put my map gas torches. Let's move on a little bit. Over here, I've got a lot of my PPE. When I take off this apron, I like to hang it up over here. There's my respirator, all of my ear protection, my face shield, all that good stuff. One of the things that I'm very excited to change in my new shop, I have just been setting all of my 2x72 attachments just down here. This surface grinding attachment is a very expensive attachment. And here I have it just setting on some scrap pieces of wood, which, I mean, that is a really dumb thing to do. I need to, in the new shop, fab up a little tree to stick those things into so that they're up and off the ground. You know, I've got everything over here from my my large wheel attachment, my rest, my table rest for the thing. I mean, it's just not an optimal thing to do. But in this little space, I just don't have the room to make that tree to get things up and out of the way. So it's just another thing that I'm going to be able to improve on in the new shop. Let's move on to my sharpening belts. You know, I've got all the way from 800 grit to 2500 grit, and then a bunch of these polishing belts. And I separate these things out because I've got the black polish, the white polish, and the purple polish. And honestly, if you get up to, you know, 400 grit on any sort of knives, you can just go through these 3 polishing belts on a lot of handle materials, and that's good enough to give you a nice glassy finish. Those polishing belts are something I've actually just recently gotten into, and I love them. They're a huge upgrade in the shop. Moving on, this is my only tabletop workspace in the entire shop. Let's see, it is a little over 2 feet by a little over 3 feet of space. This is where all of the knife making, the fine detail work, this 2 foot by 3 foot table space is all I have in this little shop. And oh my gosh, am I excited to have way more than that. In this little space, I've of course have my belt grinder over here on the right. I have my TR Maker triaxle vise. You know, this thing moves in all different directions. Great vise. I've got my regular vise. I've got my aluminum plate press, which you can watch the video on that one, as well as the video on the triaxle vise. Down below, I've got my air compressor down here, the propane tanks over there, my little tiny shop vac over yonder. I should use that a lot more than I do, but you know, it is what it is. Down there, it is hard to clean and you can see all of the crap that accumulates down there. Man, I need to be better about that. Back up over here, of course I have this little nice cabinet that came with this space, and I have just filled it to the brim with a bunch of stuff. Epoxies, all of the cleaning stuff, some files, couple fire starting type things, a lot of my pens and pencils and Sharpies, you know, basically all of the little stuff that you need to grab all the time. I just try to keep it as, you know, contained in this little section as possible, as well as, you know, my measuring tools, some axe wax, a bunch of other different waxes I've been sent, Pelican paste, and stuff from my buddy Jeremy 319 Forging. definitely check out both of those guys. This Pelican paste I've heard really good things about. You know, I love my axe wax, but hey, you might as well try some new things, right? Up over here, we've got just all of the different liquids that I use between my etching fluids. So like the ferric chloride, I'm blanking on the name of this one, muriatic acid, there it is. WD-40, acetone, Windex. Those are most of the things that I use for that type of stuff. So I try to keep that all contained up there. Over here, I have some spray paints, wood stains, stuff if I ever need to use them. Very rarely use the stuff over here, but it's up and out of the way. Of course, down here, I've got some of my other tools. The top shelf, or I guess the very top, bunch of hammers up here, you know, just regular hammers, wood mallet, a rubber mallet. Down here, the screwdrivers, the drill and tap, or the tap and die set. I use that now a lot more frequently. Next step, kind of the grabbing type thing. So a lot of these vice grips or other type of pliers. That's what lives on this level. And this is the one that I get into all the time. So a lot of my drill bits, a lot of my, basically just drill bits and hole making stuff. That's what lives on that level. More drill bits over here. Moving on, let's talk about this forge. So this forge has been through a lot, and honestly, it might be at the end of its lifetime, but this thing has been incredible for, you know, basically getting started in on the knife making career. I've heat treated out of this thing. Of course, I've forged out of it. It has worked really well. And yeah, it's a really nice thing, and it's something that every knife maker needs. Speaking of another thing that a knife maker definitely needs is a drill press. I was really lucky to get my hands on this one for relatively cheap, and it has been a trooper. You know, there's a couple little wacky things where the table isn't quite level, so I made this faux table up top out of a piece of wood, and I kind of need to make it again because it's coming out of level again. So maybe that's another thing that I'll have to upgrade in the new shop. But I mean, I use it all the time, and it's never failed me. So I really like this drill press. Craftsman 17 inch. Yeah, it's been really good. I guess here's a spot that you guys don't normally see is this storage place up here. This has been a lot of crap, and honestly, what it comes down to is this shop has kind of become a 5-pound bag filled with 10 pounds of crap. This is where all the crap goes. So I've got everything up here between like my portaband saw, my stuff for making Kydex sheaths, a lot of the extra tools, my tumbling system over here that I made. It's just kind of all been thrown up here and thrown out of the way just because I don't have a place where I can just permanently set it up. Nice thing about moving into a bigger shop is I can permanently set these things up, especially the portaband saw. To be able to set this thing up and have it permanently set out so that I don't have to, you know, every time I need the portaband saw, I've got to take it down. I've got to set it up over into this vise, get it all set up, plug it in. That takes time. And to be able to just turn around and turn on the drill press or the portaband saw, that's going to be huge because, I mean, it's just going to be an upgrade for sure. Last but not least, this big old anvil. This thing is an absolute beast. I am very lucky to have this anvil. It's a Hay Budden. It's a really old one, 1909. It has been around the block and I use it very regularly. Here's an upgrade I was lucky enough to get. This right here is called the Max Grip. This is from my buddy over at Maximus Knives, Neil Warren. Basically, what it's allowed me to do is take my stamp, and instead of using some pliers or using something to hold it and whack it and, you know, am I gonna hit this thing square? Am I not gonna hit this thing square? The nice thing about it is all you have to do is set your piece of steel in here, set it in just right, and you're always going to get a perfectly square hit on your hot stamp. That thing is going to be a game changer in anybody's shop. Anybody who forges, you should pick up a Max Grip for sure. But other than that, this whole thing, I mean, that's the entirety of my shop, and it has been a huge deal in my knife making life. and I'm so excited to move on from it. I appreciate you guys for actually watching this whole thing. And if you have an idea for your perfect shop, tell me all about it. If you were able to move into a new place, what would you do? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys all for watching. Check out all of my links down in the description down below. Check me out on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. You know all the places. Let's grow into this new place together. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day.